All right, so here we go. A lot of stuff happening around Starfield, and you're probably wondering, Robbie, when is the next major update for the game? Well, we have some signs and clues about that one today that we need to go over. Plus, yes, we have got to talk about the fact that it has been 1 month since early access. What does it mean for the game and its future? And mentioning Starfield's future, we have major indications as to what we can expect as kind of like a DLC roadmap based on what Bethesda has done previously with their games. This is definitely a fascinating read. We're going to dive into that one. And shots fired in the direction of Starfield, but guess who comes out to defend the game? CD Projekt Red. I kid you not. You guys have got to see this discussion. It's absolutely fascinating. And Todd Howard has some interesting words about oversaturation around Starfield's release in this area of gaming. Yeah, we got to talk about that one for sure. And there's one location in Starfield as well that I absolutely love, and a lot of people also feel is kind of underwhelming, and that Bethesda needs to update this location big time and further expand upon it. We'll dive into that one. So yeah, you'll probably notice something about my Starfield gameplay is that it looks absolutely beautiful. It's running super smooth and it just looks stunning. And the reason for this is because I'm running on a Xidax PC. Now Xidax, they hooked me up with a beast of a machine a while ago, and I have been using it ever since with absolutely no problems. It's quiet as a mouse. It runs super smooth. I have been extremely happy with my experience, and I can say that now that's practically all I game on with my core games is my Xidax PC. And let me tell you what, through the entire process of the actual PC build itself, Xidax was there for me through and through, and I love their communication. They really supported all my needs and built the exact PC I needed for video editing. Yes, this very video was edited using my Xidax PC, and again, it runs as smooth as ever, and I can have my game open, Starfield, and then rotate over to my video editing software, which of course is Adobe Premiere. And you know how intensive some of these programs can be, but this PC runs everything without a hitch, and I can't recommend Xidax enough. By the way, I should mention they are doing a Halloween sale this October. Check it out in the description below if you want to learn more. But yeah, there's definitely some deals going on right now at Xidax.com. They also have a lot of customization options as well. So if you have a certain look that you're going for, you can do that. So check out Xidax PC in the description below to begin your PC building adventure, because I highly recommend them. And, you know, if I need to upgrade in the future, I'm going to go with Xidax. They're my go-to for my PC gaming experience for sure. So check out Xidax PCs in the description below. But yeah, let's get into this. And remember, if you are new, smack that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notification icon to never miss another upload. But here we go. First and foremost, the big discussion is Starfield dying off rapidly? Well, I can safely say, no, it is not. I mean, currently, it's early in the morning right now when I record this. We have nearly 80,000 concurrent players on this game right now. Remember, this is not a heavy multiplayer-centric game. This is extremely impressive that this game is pulling off these numbers. And I expect it to have a steady amount of players on this as we get into Creation Kit 2 for sure. Also, yeah, about future updates. When is the next major update? So that's what a lot of people are wondering. We're supposed to be getting updates, of course, to the local map, that sort of thing. And then, of course, DLSS support, official support beyond the modding community. But yeah, we do have some indication as to what's going on. If we go to SteamDB, we could take a look here, and we can see that the dev tech branch has been updated only 2 hours ago. But what we're really looking for here is QA staging main, because when that gets updated, then you know that things are really starting to happen in terms of updates for Starfield. Now that was updated only 8 days ago, but once we see another update with that one, I think we're going to get very close to what would be considered the next major patch for Starfield. I'll keep you guys in the know about that one. But yeah, with the dev tech update, perhaps we will be getting some sort of performance patch in the very near future. So that's something I think that we can look forward to when it comes to perhaps smaller patches first ahead of a major patch. All right, so we also have this one right here. It has been 1 month since early access. How would you guys personally rate Starfield Now? And oh boy, this next one definitely stirred up a big discussion, and we got a very detailed reply from one of the developers on Cyberpunk 2077. Stick with me on this one. We'll get into what the CDPR developer had to say, but it's absolutely worth a read, so check it out right here. Here's the headline. The CD Projekt Red dev defends Starfield amid criticisms that its character animations don't match up to Cyberpunk 2077. Well, there might be actual reasoning behind this, so let's get into it. So first and foremost, the source of this comes from Synth Potato, who says, as much as I like Starfield, creation engine needs to go. So you'll notice that a lot of this surrounds creation engine. That's the hot topic here, so we have to make that as an important note. Now, it says, going back to Cyberpunk puts in perspective just how outdated Starfield's dialogue animations are, and it is staggering, regressing to a rigid camera angle that was left behind in 2006 with Oblivion, and entirely eliminating body language is one of the most stunningly stupid decisions I've seen designers make. Why regress to Oblivion? They had a far better angle in Skyrim and Fallout 4. Do you guys agree with that or not? Sure, neither had good facial animations, but at least it didn't lock you in and remove body language entirely like Starfield does. Now, this thread goes on and on here, but ultimately it leads us to these comparison videos. You can see Judy here to the left versus, of course, Starfield. And he's kind of showing how there's no body language going on here. And then Judy, she's very much active in this scene. Now, there might be actual reasoning for this. So yeah, let's see what CD Projekt Red's very own Patrick K. Mills had to say about this one. It gets very good as we go through this thread, so let's get into it. He says this, I like Starfield a lot, so I'm not getting involved in the core criticisms here. But I will say the way they handle cinematics versus 2077 is not down to engine so much as it is tools and design, related but not the same. So he's basically first and foremost saying, hey, it's not the fault of the creation engine. There's more to this, so stick with me. He furthermore says this, caveat, I'm not an engine guy and I have only a little experience with Creation Kit. So if a programmer with that experience wants to come in and correct me, you are welcome, but I don't see any reason why they couldn't do something more elaborate if they wanted to, plus add the tools. And it says it's not a focus for them for a lot of reasons, and the necessarily high level of player freedom is actually as big a deal as the tools. You can't do the Judy's roof thing because you can have that scene play out 100-something different planets at any time. Furthermore, he says they do some scenes that are staged in a more refined way, like meeting Constellation for the first time, some quest sequences, etc. But they have vastly more scenes with a revolving cast of characters and a mind-boggling number of possible locations. Every major scene in 2077 took literal years to make. In Starfield, I could propose to like 10 different NPCs, and I could do it on any of 1,000 different planets. You can't do elaborate scene design like that. You'd be making the game forever. In other words, the game would never release. However, I do think that they could perhaps consider adding more body language into Starfield. It'd be nice to have that as some sort of update down the road. I wouldn't hold your breath for that. And I will say this, Elder Scrolls 6 does need more body language. We definitely need that for sure when it comes to Elder Scrolls 6. So I really hope that Bethesda is paying attention to that feedback going forward. Now, also, we have this one from Patrick K. Mills. He says, instead of Bethesda Game Studios puts their resources into giving maximum levels of player freedom, they are just doing something different with their time, and that's cool. You can want their scenes to be more cinematic or whatever, and that's fair, but it comes at a cost. You can want their scenes to be more cinematic or whatever, and that's fair, but it comes at a cost. Yeah, and that's also another interesting discussion about the future of Starfield, and of course, more importantly, things like Elder Scrolls 6, because, yeah, you got to remember that now Bethesda Game Studio has Microsoft in their corner. That gets me excited. I hope that Microsoft is really, really willing to hire whatever type of team Bethesda Game Studio really needs to pull off what many would consider to be the impossible when it comes to upping character interactions, to have all those cinematic type qualities That's what I'm hopeful for. And honestly, that's what I really do want for Elder Scrolls 6, is that type of enhanced interactivity with NPCs. And continuing onward, it says this is like the Baldur's Gate 3 should get DLC to be real time, or every RPG should offer the gameplay and narrative agency of Baldur's Gate 3 all over again, but this time simply chalked up to engine. It's ignorant, and I don't mean to say that to disparage the original poster, but not every game can do everything. You can't make a game that has every feature executed to the same level as the best in that field. It has very little to do with the engine you are using. And again, you know, the scope and size of Cyberpunk 2077 is very different from Starfield. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the ball is very much in Bethesda's court right now, and they're going to have to really decide on what they are going to be focusing up on in the future when it comes to Elder Scrolls 6. Will they go all in on upping their game when it comes to dialogue and, of course, that type of interactivity? I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case, because it seems like it's headed in that direction considering the support they are getting. So I'm actually very hopeful. It's just that I'm not too worried about Creation Engine itself. You know, we've already seen some cool things happening with collaborative efforts with Bethesda and, you know, ID Software, who came in and really helped out with the gunplay. You can really feel that with Starfield. I was super impressed, honestly, with how the gunplay feels in Starfield. And that tells me they're willing to get the help that they need. And I think that's what they're going to do next go around here with Elder Scrolls 6. And that's why I'm kind of excited to see what NPC interactions look like in Elder Scrolls 6. I'm sure the world will be looking and waiting to see what they do with that one. All right, so yes, next up we have this article right here from Forbes. Check it out. It says Fallout 4 may indicate what Starfield DLC and additions will be. This is a fantastic read. We're going to get into this one right now. It says the following: we know already that Starfield is getting a future Shattered Space expansion, but as I've said, I'm betting Bethesda does more than both that and mod support coming next year. So what does Fallout 4 indicate we could see coming in Starfield? A lot of things potentially could carry over. This makes total sense. We have Automatron. It says this was the first add-on to Fallout 4, and while it had some story components, its main feature was to build your own custom robot companions. While everyone loves Vasco, I could easily see something similar coming to Starfield, mixing and matching robotic pieces to build variants of existing models or brand new ones. Or honestly, I would take some sort of new, more general companion-focused DLC, more characters being added and fleshed out a bit besides the main four. But sure, robot building could work in Starfield, I guess. The pieces are in place, so to speak. Yeah, that would be cool, but I think a lot of people also want to see the options of having like a mech this time. Your own mech that you can actually utilize, and it would speed up exploration as well. But man, we've seen some variants of Vasco, I suppose you would say, roaming around in the galaxy, in the universe, in Starfield, and they definitely have the infrastructure there to do this. So this definitely, to me, makes a lot of sense. And scrolling up, we have Wasteland Workshop. So the second add-on, of course, for Fallout 4, we're talking about here, and it says, and we're still in Starfield territory. Now, this expansion let you capture live creatures and have them either be friends or fight to the death. There are so many creatures in Starfield's planets that I have to believe, that some sort of mechanic like this is coming, the ability to actually capture creatures you find on these planets. That'd be so cool. Almost like Pokemon here in Starfield. Now, it says Wasteland Workshop also added more parts to bases, which is obviously something Starfield will do, that and ship parts. Yeah, really expand upon. I think shipbuilding should be something that they really focus up on as well, because, you know, it's one of the most popular features I have seen from Starfield for sure. But man, being able to capture creatures and maybe even having pets, that sort of thing, would be very cool. Now, next up, we have Far Harbor. Says this was a mostly pure story-based edition. Not that Starfield can't add more story content outside of a big expansion like Shattered Space. And I think it should, but I think some of these other things are more likely. Yeah, I personally, this is my personal opinion, I do like, I guess you would say, the smaller updates to the game, but I just want the bigger expansions, and I want several of them. I was very bummed that Cyberpunk 2077 only had one big expansion, because they kind of promised two. So I want like 2 or 3 big expansions for Starfield because I think there's a lot of lore they can expand upon here for sure. Now, what about this one right here? It says Vault Tech Workshop. Here you're able to create your own vault, complete with all the trappings of Vault Tech experience. You can customize how your inhabitants look even. Again, this is playing into building mechanics, and it's easy to see how this could translate into base or starship design. Make your own capital ship to hang out inside in orbit or even space stations. You know, we've seen the fact that someone was able to take the Den, I believe it was, and some of these other space stations, and somehow there was a glitch where they can take the Den, fly it around, and even take it to the shipbuilder and mess around with components there. So that's telling me the system is very much in place. So that is very, very likely. And yes, we have Nuka World, another story quest line. Though one important bit here is that things like this always add new weapons and enemies, which Starfield could use even outside of story content. Man, more weapons, absolutely. Now, high resolution texture pack. Not sure this applies to Starfield, but we will certainly see some visual improvements over time. How about a random pedestrian NPCs don't look utterly horrifying pack? That's definitely one of the biggest complaints for the NPCs for sure. And I really do think that, you know, they mentioned like that is a kind of a good roadmap to kind of speculate upon, but it would be nice to have like an official roadmap for sure. It used to be that gaming companies did give us a full-blown roadmap, but there's definitely a sense of paranoia about not meeting release times and pissing off your audience. I get that. So I think Bethesda is going to play it safe here and just announce things when they are absolutely certain that they're going to commit here to them. But, you know, they haven't been shy about saying that they plan to support this game in the long term. So at least we do have that. Now, Todd Howard also had this to say as well. It says, Todd Howard says, expectations for Starfield changed because everything is an RPG now. I can't look at a game that doesn't have XP and leveling. This is so true, and it's kind of interesting, kind of like a double-edged sword to gaming. So let's get into this article. This one comes from Games Radar. It goes on to say the following right here. It says, Bethesda boss Todd Howard reckons mini games are some sort of RPG nowadays, which is partly why Starfield doubles down on the studio's classical role-playing style to stand out in the crowd. And Todd Howard goes on to expand his thoughts here, saying he thinks the RPG genre itself has blended into everything. I can't look at a game that doesn't have experience in leveling up. Pick any game you want, that sort of blend in. Yeah, it's getting tougher and tougher, by the way, to be an open world RPG, because wherever you go, there's an open world RPG. Even games that were never RPGs are very much open world RPGs with that RPG attachment, and to the detriment of the franchise. We've seen that with games like, I guess you would say, like Far Cry. A lot of people were like, no, why are you adding more RPG stuff to this game? It doesn't need it. And one thing I'm very happy about more recently is that studios are beginning to recognize this level of oversaturation, that they're like, hey, you know what? Our game doesn't have to have the RPG attachments. We're seeing that with like Assassin's Creed Mirage, where they're going back to the traditions of Assassin's Creed. Because yeah, Starfield definitely needs it. It is a Bethesda game, but I get where Todd Howard is coming from, that it's so oversaturated here anymore. It is very difficult to stand out. You kind of open up a game anymore to expect the big skill tree, the overwhelming amount of perks. But yeah, sometimes you just want that game to kind of like, hey, I don't want that. Like, I'm excited for Alan Wake 2, and that better not have like a huge big ass skill tree system, which I don't think it will, but it's nice to have those options, you know, still in gaming. So yeah, that's my take on it. You know, it is super oversaturated, but at the very least, I am so happy again that some of these studios are recognizing, hey, we don't have to be an RPG. There's no need for it. All right, so we got to talk about a certain location in Starfield that a lot of people are feeling like needs an update. It is, of course, the Red Mile. Says this place has a nice aesthetic to it. I hope they add more content to it in the future. And this also has kind of like a spin-off discussion as well. Check it out right here. It says, the Red Mile is underwhelming. It says, anyone else incredibly disappointed with this thing? The game hyped it up like this grueling endurance challenge, and then it just is a boring walk up a hill with some projectile vomiting polar bears. I stopped playing last night when I found out I had to do this stupid thing a second time. for one of the free star missions. And it got 4,200 upvotes. So I'm guessing a lot of people really do agree with the assessment that this needs to be fully fleshed out and more realized in the future. And I really want to see like a DLC around the Red Mile or some sort of extensive story around this thing, because they did really kind of hype it up and I was super excited about it. It's such a cool location. Even like the sound of it is very iconic. But yeah, let me know if you guys think they should make some sort of expansion even around the Red Mile. All right, so next up, it's time to go over your top comments. Remember, leave a comment down below. It could end up right here in a future video. So we have this one right here. My previous video was, this was shady, but justice was served, and it all revealed a big discovery. So yeah, check out that video if you missed it. Get into what you guys had to say right here. So we have HX3 Trapped, who says this right here. It's funny you mentioned the age thing regarding Starfield. I'm 49 years old and loving the game. I was talking to my niece the other day, and she said the game is too slow for her, and I honestly think that's why some of us older people love the game. I love going from planet to planet and their moons and collecting data and getting to know the locations, especially those around Earth. I don't feel rushed to complete the game because there are so many great places to see. Yes, there's some repetition after a while, especially with the scanning of planets. They need to shorten the requirements a bit, but my point is that I think the younger players want instant gratification and want to get to the game's end, while some of us older players want to take our time and enjoy all that Starfield has to offer. Yeah, you know, I really enjoy the pacing in Starfield. There's actual moments where I am walking on a planet, and I have played Death Stranding, so I'm actually the type of gamer that enjoyed Death Stranding, being able to roam around and listen to the music in that game. I thought that was really a cool experience, such a different experience from the norm, you know? I never thought I would get into that at all, but there are moments where I need like the peace and quiet for sure. And there's moments in Starfield where you can experience that, but I just wish they had more of like a radio station. That's one thing that I will say. But I get what you're saying, that the pacing, I think, is different in this game on some levels. But in other ways, it can be up to the player with Starfield how you can control that pacing, because there are missions that are more exciting, more gunplay. So yeah, ultimately, if you want to explore, you can do that or not. And that's something that I myself love about Starfield, is having those options. Next up, we have this one right here, Danny, who says the following. I'm 33, enjoying the hell out of Starfield. I'm at 144 hours and still feel like I've barely scratched the surface. Been doing a lot of companion quests, a bit of main story, shipbuilding, weapon modding, built multiple outposts and cool locations now on Vanguard quests. Highly recommend doing Vanguard because they have an orientation that fills you in a lot of the lore. Also, the build-up for an encounter with a certain space creature is both terrifying and epic. I wonder sometimes if I'm even playing the same game as the haters. Sure, it has its faults, but the game overall is a masterpiece. You know, I feel you, man. I totally get where you are coming from. I sometimes scratch my head. I'm like, wait, where's all the hate coming from? Like, even we're seeing gameplay right here. That kill reaction there, that death reaction was not what you would see from previous Bethesda games. I thought some of the animations in this game are impressive to me, at least, like the improvements there. And people don't talk about the actual strides Bethesda took to improve, you know, their engine. And yeah, again, I'm kind of excited for Elder Scrolls 6. All right, so next up, we have this one right here. Lord Porterhouse 2604 says, I wouldn't be shocked with the age correlation. I'm 43 and have happily put in over 110 hours plus so far, just exploring and scanning and doing my own thing. It's relaxing after teaching all day. I'll get the blood pumping with 2077 tomorrow. Again, that diversity in gaming, you know, being able to have those options. One moment you're like, man, I want to go into a fast-paced shooter experience. Next moment you want to chill. And that's the thing about Starfield. It has all of those options for you. But thank you all so much for watching. I wish I can go into all of the comments. Trust me. But thank you all so much for watching. Stay tuned here for more Starfield. I have you guys covered on that one. And let me know what else you guys would like to actually see me cover as well. I'm kind of curious. Sound off in the comments below. And I will see you all next time. Take care.